How's it going, everyone? Adam here from Coding Basics, and welcome to tutorial number 1 in my HTML and CSS series. I'm actually pretty sure this is the first tutorial I've posted in 2015. I know it's been a long time coming. As I mentioned in a previous video, I'm going to start focusing on some web development series, and this HTML CSS one is the first one. HTML and CSS, really basic tools you need as a web developer. That's why I'm doing them first. And yeah, so let's just get into it. So this video is just going to be a quick little slideshow. I think I'm going to try from now on, like I used to in all my tutorial series, when I wanted to introduce the language or something like that, I would pull up like the Wikipedia page, and it's not like I was reading directly from it. I had the highlights that I had already gone over, and I would quickly just go over them. But I've actually got a slideshow prepared for you guys just to quickly explain HTML, as well as a little bit of CSS, and then we're going to get all set up so in the next video we can start coding. So let me just open up PowerPoint here, and let's get started. So HTML. HTML stands for hyper, oops, I spelled that wrong, that's a hyper, it's supposed to be an R after the hypertext markup language. It is the standard markup language for making web pages. I can't think of any other markup language off the top of my head right now that is really used. HTML is pretty much it. Now, it's a markup language, not to be confused with a programming language. A programming language, sort of like Java, Python, there's a lot more logical stuff you can do, I guess is what the best way to put it is. If statements, loops, stuff like that. HTML is a markup language. What that means is you describe basically the layout of the web page. You're describing how the website should be laid out. So HTML itself has been around for about 22 years, and in this series we will be using HTML5, which is the newest one if you're wondering. So elements are written in the form of tags. So HTML, you have a document, which is your web page. Inside there, you have a bunch of tags that lay out the structure of your website. Now, there are two different types of tags. Something called pairs. So right here, this is a paragraph. This is what you call a paragraph tag. So any tag starts and ends, like they're surrounded by angled brackets. So this is a pair, so a pair of tags. The first one is usually called the opening or the starting tag. This one's usually called the ending or the closing tag. Either or works just fine. Both are used to name these. So this is a paragraph. The opening tag would have an angle bracket as well as the tag name. So a paragraph, the tag is just a P. Now, the closing tag is the exact same except for there's a / before the tag name. So opening tag, closing tag. Now everything in between is what's going to be displayed as part of this paragraph. So this would be, if I pulled up a web page, this would be a paragraph that just says Coding Basics. That's all you would see. Now there's also single tags. So for an example, an image. Image is just IMG, and then in this case I specified source, so you can specify values for these tags. So for images you can specify source. So this is where you get the picture, or what the picture's called. You can also specify in here like which directory to look in for this picture. You can specify the width and the height. So you can use that to as parameters for this image tag. And for single tags, you close them off with, after everything, with a / and a closing angled bracket. That is the difference between pairs and single tags. And the one thing is, a lot of people will forget the / in single tags, and it's not that hugely important, to be honest. And I'll admit that's sometimes something I do, just a bad habit, I guess. That's because it doesn't really matter too much. It doesn't change anything. Whereas here, if you forgot the / here, it's going to think you're trying to start a new paragraph within this current paragraph. That wouldn't cause too many problems, to be honest, because, both are paragraphs, but it's not the best style at all. And then that can cause problems later on down your page if you don't have these closed off. So that's basically all I wanted to go over about tags. I don't expect you to memorize the paragraph image, just easy examples. All this stuff I'll be going over in later tutorials. So as far as functionality goes in HTML, like I said, it's not like you have if statements, loops, stuff like that. So to give your web page functionality, you embed scripts. Now, the most common client-side scripting language is JavaScript. It's got like a huge, like over 50% of the market share. It is the scripting language. And that'll be a later tutorial series. I'm not going to include it as part of this, but just kind of know that's how you give your page functionality. So you can set up functions. So if this button is pressed, do this. Stuff like that. So that is how you implement functionality in HTML web pages. Now, styling. HTML, like I said, markup language. So it is how you define the overall layout, or sorry, not layout, structure of your web page. CSS is what you use to style them. So CSS actually stands for Cascaded Style Sheets. And that is what you use to define the look, layout, color, font, stuff like that. So that's how you give your website, a better appearance. Just by itself, if you had HTML, no CSS, you would just have a white web page with some black text. CSS is how you use different background colors, different fonts, different font colors. And where it says layout here, you can move around with CSS different components. HTML will kind of just lay it out in a default location. You can change that default location to put an object, or sorry, not an object, an element somewhere else on the page. So I'm going to start the series by going over HTML, and then later on in the series, start using some CSS3. I'm not doing them in two different series because the two kind of go hand in hand. They really do. So that is why I'll be combining both in this series, and both are really, really important. Any web developer should know them. And they are fairly easy to pick up. My web development class in university didn't even go over HTML or CSS, and it wasn't expected that we knew it. It was just so easy that there was no point in telling or teaching it to us. They are very easy to pick up, so it is a good starting point for web development. Now, as far as what we're going to need for this series, two things. Now, one good thing is we're not going to have to install really any software development kit. Basically, all modern web browsers, so that's Safari, Google Chrome, Firefox, Opera, even Internet Explorer, all of them, they have built-in HTML, CSS, JavaScript interpreters. So they're built into the web browser. So we don't have to install anything. We have nothing to install that way. So the only things you're going to have to make sure you have is a modern web browser. So I put quotes around modern because pretty much any web browser that people use nowadays are modern. One of the original Netscape browsers might not, work for you, but you're pretty free to use the browser you want. Firefox, Chrome, Safari if you're on Mac. You're pretty free there. As long as it can, load HTML pages, you're good to go. Now, the other thing we're going to need is a text editor. You can use any text editor, but I'm just going to say for your sake, what will make it easier to actually write the code as well as, format it. You should have a text editor that is designed for programming, and I would strongly recommend that text editor being Notepad++. Really good one, especially for web development, and that's what I'm going to do in this video. We're going to install that quickly, and I'm just going to, have you guys set up the same way that I am set up. So, here we go. Alright, close that off and open your web browser, and just Google Notepad++. I actually uninstalled it so I could install it here in this video. So I will go through the complete installation with you guys. So Notepad++ installer. I'll throw that in my downloads. And here, it's quick download, only 6.6 megabytes. And we're going to start the install. So, sorry, I guess I went a little quick there. I just clicked OK. Yes, English is my language, so that's why I hit OK quickly. Next, you have to agree to a license agreement. If you want to change the destination folder, go ahead, but this is just fine for me. Now, looking here, you pretty much, I would just leave it how it is. So you don't really need like their themes, I guess. But I'm just going to leave it as is. I'm fine with this. I don't care if I don't really need all these themes. I'm just going to leave it like this and click next. Now I would recommend checking off this box, create shortcut on desktop, and install. Should be a quick install, and there we go. I'm going to leave that check mark checked because I want to open this anyway. So here you go. You're going to open it up, and right here it's just going to be talking about the different bug fixes in this version. I'm going to close that off, and I am actually going to create a quick little web page here. So I'm just going to start by creating a directory. I'm going to go to my C drive, and I actually have a folder here specifically for websites, and in there I'm going to create a new folder and call it tutorials. Alrighty. And in here I'm going to create a file called hello world and drop this down, select HTML. There we go. So hello world.html is the file that's going to be created. Alright, now I actually, before this, in a different text editor, I quickly just made a basic website. Very, very basic, to be exact. I'm going to quickly save that. Don't worry too much about the code. I am going to do a similar example in the next video. Actually make this type of website with you, explaining along the way. So once you have a file saved in Notepad++, one thing I really like about it is you can go to the top here, Run, and choose which browser to launch it in. Now this is actually good to run on multiple browsers, so it wouldn't be a bad thing for you to download Chrome, Firefox, and have Internet Explorer. Test it on all three just to make sure it looks the same. Sometimes, the way you have it laid out on Firefox when you open it in Chrome, the layout's kind of mixed up and looks really bad. So you want it to look the same in any browser that's used. Now Chrome is my browser of choice, so I'm just going to say launch in Chrome. And here we go. So I got a basic file here that just says hello world. Hope you enjoyed your first HTML tutorial. And up here in the top, you'll notice I put a title, Coding Basics. And you'll see here that this is in fact the file that we created, hello world.html. Well, that is all I want to go over with you guys. Just make sure for the next video you have a browser ready, text editor as well. And yeah, that's the first video done with. In the next video, we'll actually make a website together and then start getting into a little bit more interesting stuff after that. I know just a basic text website isn't too interesting, but it is going to get more interesting as we go, I promise. So thank you guys for watching. Remember to leave a comment on this video, like this video, and subscribe. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.